Alrighty, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So, first, thank you so much for attending this webinar. I'm super excited to have you guys here and share the things that I've learned about data quality through my personal research and then just on my current job. So, I'll just tell you guys a little bit about me. So, my background is in industrial engineering, and I worked in aerospace manufacturing for quite a bit. And then I took a career pivot and did data analytics at Rice. I did a boot camp, a 6-month boot camp, and that helped me land the opportunity that I have now as a data engineer for NG North America. I'm also a week away from graduating from Eastern Michigan with my master's in quality management. Occupations-wise, I do have my own consulting company, Zador Consulting. Again, I work as a data engineer, and I'm also a data analytics mentor for Thinkful or Chegg. And I have my Lean Six Sigma Green Belt, and I'm also a lead auditor for AS9100 or ISO 9000. So that's all the mouthful about me. So a little bit about the process improvement SIG. Ultimately, I was blessed to have this opportunity last year to serve as the process improvement SIG director. And my aim is pretty much captured in these 3 goals. I definitely want to facilitate training partnerships so we can have subject matter experts in the various industries within process improvement. Historically speaking, we focused a lot on Lean Six Sigma, continuous improvement, which were really great initiatives. Now, when you fast forward to 2020 or 2019, 2020, a lot of the initiatives that's going out when you look at process improvement encompass data. So how can you make sound business decisions using data as the vehicle for that? So my hope is to not only have process improvement from a Lean Six Sigma standpoint, but to also have it in the sense of project management, having agile methodologies, as well as supply chain management and different tools from that standpoint. So that's my goal for my tenure as process improvement SIG director, is definitely making sure that we are tier and industry leaders when it comes to various process improvement tools. So our leadership right now, it is me and my advisor, Brian Jackson, and it accurately depicts him as the brains behind everything. Everything that you guys have seen as far as this process improvement SIG has been executed by us as a dynamic duo. So we have several openings to join us and help us to really reach and hit those objectives. So if you are interested in that, I will have my email at the end of the slide deck for you guys to follow up, have questions, as well as when I send out this presentation for you to have access to that. In addition, as I said, my hope is to have really timely trainings and ensuring that we are leaders in these spaces. So earlier this week, I sent out an email to our distribution list with links to all of these trainings that are free. The Tableau training is a 90-day trial or free trial. Where you could explore what is Tableau. A lot of the certifications are really price friendly. I think the desktop specialist certification is around $125. So it's a really, really good deal. The remaining trainings are self-paced. And as I come across these trainings and I learn more about free or reduced price training, I would definitely make sure that's accessible for our members. So again, if you are not on a distribution list and if you do have interest in the SIG, please take down my email at the end of this presentation so I can get you looped in. So the agenda. So with the lens that I have, I always go from the standard. So it's always a good starting point when you're looking at anything that has quality in the name is what does the standard say? So we're gonna look at the ISO standard and look at what is data quality management, what is data quality as a whole, the dimensions within data quality, the data types and methodologies. So in the methodology section, we're actually going to run through an example of data quality that I deal with at work, which should be fun for you guys. Wasn't that fun for me, but should be fun for you guys. So the ISO standard, it still holds, the 2008 version is still holding true. They looked at it, revisited it in 2019, and there was no revisions made to it. So ultimately the standard establishes what are your parameters, what are your measurements, and how to evaluate data quality for your systems and of course your data. So again, if you're unfamiliar or if this standard is really new to you, I would highly recommend looking into it if you're working within the means of data and what does it look like to have the infrastructure to ensure that your data is not only safe, it's concise, and it's on a as needed basis. And what I mean by as needed basis, not everyone needs to have the same level of accessibility to your data. So I would highly, highly recommend looking at this standard. So data quality management. The data quality management as a whole encompasses 3 elements. And you could find varying degrees of what is comprised of data quality management, but I look at it in 3 elements. So data governance, master data management, and of course, data quality. So just a snapshot of what that means. So data governance, I look at that from the standpoint of your system. How can you have integrity, security of your data, ensuring that it is a repeatable process, that there are standards with it. So within data governance, there's members for that. You have a data steward, you have all these different personnel that manage data from a security and operational standpoint. So it's your checks and balances. You also have master data management, and that's managing of the organizational data. So I view that from a ERP or enterprise standpoint. So housing all of your information in one trusted enterprise. And that's often hard because you look at the primary domains of data, master data management, are your customers, your products, and locations. So there's usually a myriad of ERPs that house that information. So being able to have that in one central location is a challenge. So that having master data management has its own personnel to really oversee data, oversee the management of that one system. Data quality is the measurement and assuring an assessment of data quality within those systems. So we're going to focus mainly on the data quality aspect of everything. So again, referring back to the standard, what does this standard say data quality is? So data quality is the capability of data to satisfy a stated and implied needs used under specified conditions. And for this specific presentation, we're going to look at the two aspects of data quality, and that's inherent and system-dependent data quality. So inherent is the data itself, and then system-dependent, as in the title, it's the uses of the data within various computer systems. So that's really the lens that we're going to look at. And through those lenses, we're able to look at what are the data quality dimensions. The standard speaks on 15 different dimensions that can help you assess data quality within your system. And it seems overwhelming when you think of 15 different characteristics to measure your system's effectiveness, your system's ability to have concise data, accurate data. So, however, I would state that a lot of these are intuitive. So you want to have accurate, complete, credible currentness and consistency in your data. That you would love to have. That's a necessity. You also want to have the ability for your data to be recoverable and portable. So if you ever done the fatal mistake of making revisions within an Excel sheet and never saving that, you don't want to do that with your computer system or any type of network or database that you're working in. I can tell you from experience, it is not a good thing to deal with. So in both system dependent and inherent data quality, you have confidentiality, efficiency, precision, accessibility, compliance, traceability, and understandability. Again, not everyone in your system or everyone in your organization needs to have the same level of access to your data. Some people need view only, some people need editing rights, some people need the ability to create tables or create databases. So again, the standard kind of prescribes how you should go about that and the best way that your organization can interpret that. So I would recommend the standard to be your lens on how to successfully execute data quality. So as we're talking about data, let's visit what are the types of data. And this is probably the most interesting part to me, is just how data comes across. We often think we often view data as just a jumble of information. And that's true in some cases. Sometimes what our businesses and organizations want is to take something that's chaotic and give it structure. So going from maybe an unstructured or a semi-structured input to an output that's very structured. So unstructured data is fluid and flexible. It changes record by record. So let's think of an email. Within an email, you'll have your text, you could have a PDF attachment, you could have a video attachment, an Excel sheet. You can have all these different attachments and different data types in one email. So if you're trying to get information from that, what applications would you use? How could you imply or extract that information from it? So tools that are very useful to do that is Hadoop, MongoDB, and Statistica. So, and I can explain those once I cover all three data types. I wouldn't consider metadata a data type because it's literally in everything. So structured data is predictable. So think of your Excel sheet. and how that's laid out and how everything is easily accessible row by row, column by column. It's easy to identify what is your input and your output to that information. Semi-structured data is a blend. So you may have some parts of it that's structured, other parts that's pure chaos. So having tools that could adequately dissect that information is a necessity. So briefly, let me go over the data applications. So Hadoop and Spark are under Apache, and they're big data processing tools. The difference between Hadoop and Spark is really just the language. Hadoop uses Java as its primary language, whereas Spark uses Scala as its primary language or coding language. Hadoop is more for historical data, and Spark you can do real-time data. MongoDB, unlike, so let me back up. When you're looking at SQL and the variants of SQL, so PostgreSQL, MySQL, Spark SQL, it's a relational database, which means that there is a common term or a common table or a common field where you can pair two tables together to get either a query or a report that is basically the aggregate of two tables with, again, a common theme. MongoDB, you do not need to have a relationship within that database. So it is for non-relational data. That is what separates MongoDB and SQL. So your primary data processing languages is Python. I made that really big just because it's such an expansive tool and you can do a lot of what I've listed using Python. It's just a really, really incredible tool. So this is an example that I found scavenging through the internet on what is a physical layout of unstructured, semi-structured, and structured data. So all of this communicates the same information. The layout is the primary difference. With structured data, it's easy to see person with ID 2, so your second person is David, that's 31, who has a PhD. That's ultimately where we would like to get with data in most cases. But let's say if it came across as a unstructured data, where you have text, numbers, you have all of these types of data. You have strings, you have floats, you have integers, you could have anything, and trying to get the core information that you want from that. And semi-structure is a blend of that. So you have structure to it where you can say, okay, all under student 1, we have John who's 18 with BSc, right? You can see all of that under student 1, but is it as easily to identify? What if that was wrapped up? So if you weren't able to see all the information under what student 1 is, it'll go from student 1 to student 2 to student 3. You wouldn't be able to see all of the details as clearly as structured data. So those are examples of the differences between structured, semi-structured, and unstructured data. And hopefully I didn't confuse y'all. So when you look at data quality methodology, and this is the approach that I use day to day in my current role as a data engineer. So data profiling is the at a glance. When you look at the data, does things make sense? Does what comes across, is it consistent? Is it concise? Does the text in those columns or in those rows make the most sense? If not, then that's an opportunity to get to the data cleansing space. So once you look at the profile of it, then you want to measure it in assessment or perform an assessment. And that's just understanding and interpreting, does the results make sense? Does this make sense? Does it meet these KPIs? Or if you're just looking at the data itself, does it make sense for what we're looking at, for what we're assessing? Does this meet our target? Data cleansing is literally, as it's titled, data cleansing. So it's the process of correcting incorrect information, removing duplicate information, and if you're thinking from a lean Six Sigma standpoint, this is where your outliers are. So is this a one-off? Is this a trend? So that's the process there. And then data quality monitoring is looking at your overall data and again, making sure that it's uniform and making sure that from a quantitative standpoint, it's meeting those KPIs. It's within that range of those targets. So think from a Six Sigma standpoint. So let me explain this snippet really quick. So again, I work as a data engineer for NG. And NG is a solar renewable energy company. So I spend majority of my time looking at the outputs of over 480 solar sites and how they are performing against a TMY, which is a 10, 20, or 30-year model that has been developed to reflect what our output per site should be. It's a lot. So basically, we have for our monthly report, we take an at a glance of how are we performing against the TMY, which is our model. And the TMY is reflected here as 0.50%. And M_prod is our monthly production. And the sites are under the site column. Device ID is the specific devices that we're getting that information from, the year, quarter, the site name, and then on the far right column is your actual site production. So here's a bigger view of that same snapshot. And I'm going to be shifting the views of this just so we could get to the nitty gritty of kind of my process on how I look at our monthly reporting. So for March, I was creating and going through our monthly report and these values came across and I immediately was like, something is very wrong. There is no way that we could have a 5,000% production. That's impossible. It's possible for us to have over 100%, just due to us performing better than the model. And of course, we can have less than 100% for performing less than what the model should be, or what we think the model is. We also have notes in there for if there's something wrong, or if we switched out a meter or a device, we keep that noted. So I want to focus on the first one, which is this first Las Vegas site, because it's like 5,000% over our model. So let me move to the next view, because okay. So when I'm looking at the data quality assessment, I'm looking at is this information consistent? Does it match the most current year, current information? Is there any changes, any like at a glance changes? And as I kind of sifted through, I think I looked at like a year and a half worth of data for this one specific site. I noticed that we had a device change. Now, how a lot of our underlying formulas within this sheet works, it's reference the device ID that is part of the model, right? So when we developed our model, it was based off specific devices to meet that output for our TMY. Oh, TMI is a typical metallurgical year. That's what that means. So I immediately see that we swapped out meters in January. However, in this month, that change didn't cascade down. So my thought was it's referencing a device ID that doesn't exist. So the model is just spitting out whatever information we provided it. So what I mean by that is when you look at our cumulative production for the year, or for the year thus far, our model right now is reflecting that same number because of this device doesn't have, the model isn't incorporating that device. So when I go back and I see like, okay, well, it's still using a cumulative production instead of the monthly production. Our cumulative is just as a sound, so it's just tabulating out how much production we're getting over time. So instead of us getting a monthly production for March, we're getting the yearly or annual to this point production, and that's what's making that number super high. And as I stated before, if you look at where we have 119% and 120%, that's how much we produced over our model, which is falling in line with what our monthly production is. We produced higher than our model, so our output should be higher. So this is where I go through the process of data wrangling. I go through and update our formulas to now have the correct device ID to give me the correct output. And I have to do this every time this error happens within the sheet. Currently, it is, from my view and having a process improvement Lean Six Sigma standpoint, super inefficient. Super inefficient. But that is the current state process, or the current state of this process. And future state is to have this information either accessible within MySQL database as a report that we don't have to modify and make adjustments to, but we have to develop that first and make sure that we have all the kinks out of it before we put it into production. So that's right now working in an Excel sheet is my biggest task, but I'm also in a future view to develop this within a SQL database for us to be able to quickly get this information and it not be a days long process to go through site by site anytime that there's an error within our data quality where the formula isn't working, if there's a communication error with our devices and it's not producing, or there's times where they'll swap out devices and you have to literally subtract subtract from the production meter and add to the next month because there's a lag in that the accounting for that meter production. Our meters are like odometers for your car, so they're going to keep going, you know. So the goal is to have the long-term vision is ultimately have a consistent, concise output that we can trust, and that's literally the goal of data quality, where when you're extracting information from your systems, it's reliable, it's repeatable. So think of a gauge R&R for my Lean Six Sigma quality people. You want to have your data that is repeatable and reproducible. Like, that's the ultimate goal. So again, once I go through, fix that error, I look at the historical view. Is this in line? So from our targets, we have plus or minus 20% deviation from our meter forecast or our model and what we're actually producing. So I view how are we doing in alignment with that. So I'll graph that out and I'll look for any anomalies and see if there is something that I can explain, or is that something we really need to do a deep dive into why it's not performing the way that it should be. So even in this graph, you can easily see that at first we were really on target with the model. We were like neck and neck with it. And for some reason, the model just dropped out. Our production fell off. So that brings me back to your quality background, right? So that's where you do your ADs, your A3s, all of the lean tools that we have learned, that this is the perfect opportunity to use those. So do the 5 why. Why did this happen? So in this case, it's a meter. We had a meter issue, whether it was a loss of communication, or it could be weather related. Again, because this is solar dependent, if it's a super cloudy period of time, we will not produce what the model says. If it's foggy, if it's snowing a lot, raining a lot, we will underproduce. But if it's a good sunny day, the irradiance, which is the measurement of energy from the sun, will be super high and will perform better than the model. So you can see that in month 9. We are doing really good. The model determined that during that fall season, we should have a dip in production, and we didn't. So we did pretty good there. So that is how I monitor the data quality for sites. And as we're scaling up and ramping up the production to do more utility sites, so bigger sites than what I'm currently monitoring, it's imperative to understand how to get sound data quality systems and processes established before we go from right at 480 sites to the goal of 5,000 sites. So that's a huge jump, and that could be a tremendous time sink if you look at having to make adjustments for each site. So just to recap, so you want to look at the data profile, your at a glance. What is the data saying? Does this make sense? Does this look consistent? You want to measure it and do an assessment that's asking yourself those questions of how can this, how the results being interpreted? What is the output? What is the KPI? What is the objective here? And are we meeting that? From there, you'll look at doing data cleansing. So that's the act of physically cleaning the data, removing outliers, removing anything that doesn't make sense, duplicates from that data set. If your data is shifted over when you import it, it's the process of getting everything back in alignment. And your data quality monitoring is literally just monitoring it. How are we performing? How does the data behave over time? So let me see. Do we have any questions really quickly? Wait, I did something wrong. Okay. Let's go to questions.
Hey, can you see the questions?
No, I can't.
Oh, okay, I got you. So right now we have one question. A few years ago, there was talk about using this SIG to improve NSBE operations. I think using the membership to improve our organization would be extremely value added and a win-win situation. Is this something you plan to pursue?
Absolutely. I see the SIG, this SIG being able to make NSBE more efficient in ways. There are processes that should be repeatable, as Julius communicated in the previous session. There are things that we shouldn't have to start from a fresh slate or a clean slate. However, to really execute that, I need a team. So if you are interested in that and you have visions for that, email me. Ultimately, NSBE is only as good as we make it. So if we're not taking active roles in pursuing leadership, pursuing opportunities in how NSBE could be a better service to us, the organization will be stagnant. It won't grow. So NSBE has morphed from its inception, but NSBE 2020 and NSBE 2021 has to meet the needs and the demands of the industry. And we need people to not only tell us where we're missing the mark, but to drive that. So again, if you do have ideas, questions, comments on how we could make our society as best as possible, let us know. Like, NSBE is really here to serve you guys, to make sure that we're not just bettering our leadership, but our members.
Diamond, this is Camila. I'm still on. Really good job on the presentation tonight. If I may also add a little bit to the question that was asked. Certainly, the last time that I had a tenure on the PEB, there was an ask for some of those SIGs to work with, our WHQ on some of the challenges with the NSBE website. And I think this is a great opportunity for us to reintroduce that again. That question was asked, and I think that, even just from the work that you presented here, we have people who are trained professionals, specifically in our special interest groups. So just FYI, and I'm sure you already saw my notification, but I'm going to be holding a chat with all the SIG directors to really identify opportunities like this. Like, what are some ways that we could leverage the experts that are in our SIGs to assist us internally as well as externally? So I think that question is very appropriate and right on time.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. Maurice, is there any other questions? I still am unable to see.
Yep, we got 2 more questions currently.
Okay.
All right, so next question. Diamond, can you please tell us how NSBE is leveraging this data quality process? What is your SIG doing regarding this process?
So data quality is pretty new to this SIG. It is a new space. So how we're planning on leveraging that is making partnerships with leaders in this space. So there's organizations like Open Data Source Conference, that Data Science Conference, my apologies, that partner and specialize in this space. There's organizations like Informatica that has data quality certifications and trainings. So my hope and my aim is to really shift on getting trainings available, so that we can not only bring data quality to NSBE, but bring data quality to our organization. If that answers that question.
All right, so next question. What is the difference between data science, analytics, and machine learning? I've heard these used interchangeably, but unclear as to each application.
Okay. Data science is more from a statistical standpoint. So that's using different tools like R, Python, Statistica, SAS, to drive business decisions from there from a data standpoint. Data analytics is more of a visualization. So that's your Tableau and different visualization tools that you can use. You can also do data visualizations within Python as well. But that's been the distinguishing thing for me is data science. Again, within organizations, they may use those interchangeable, but data science to me is really from a statistical standpoint, driving change, and data analytics is finding a story through data and making that come to life. And if you are interested in data analytics, I would recommend, I'll send this out in the email too. It's a book called The Art of Storytelling Through Data. And it's a really, really good book. I'll send that information out as well. It's really good to identify who is your target audience. Because again, when you're presenting information, it needs to be filtered to who your shareholder and your target audience is. So it's a really, really good resource. I don't want to keep rambling on about it, but it's an amazing book. So I'll send that out too. Any other questions?
All right, a couple more questions. Next question. Diamond, do you have a roadmap on how data quality and or data analytics should be implemented here at NSBE?
Oh, do I have a roadmap for that? I think I have a vision on how that can be executed. I definitely do, but a physical roadmap, not yet. I think the biggest thing for NSBE is establishing our core processes. And once we have core processes established, then it's easy to not only figure out a way to either visualize that or quantify it, but to improve it. So it's kind of hard to implement a tool that's really dependent on having procedures and systems and structures when there isn't any. So yeah, I definitely want to do that and hope to do that. If not within this year, then next year. Sorry, I'm writing questions.
Next question. Is there a possibility of having a data science or related boot camp provided for NSBE members?
Ooh, I like that question. I'll look into that actually. So I currently am a data analytics mentor for Thinkful. So one of the angles that I have been looking at is trying to get a partnership there. Thinkful, our Chegg, is one of the leaders in online learning spaces. So that is definitely in the works. So that is my hope there.
So that was the last question that I saw. So I don't know if you just want to wrap it up or you want to give it a couple of more minutes, but we have another question.
Okay.
All right, so NSBE had 2 more questions. Just threw me off here. Screen started moving. NSBE has tons of membership data available. Can we use data science / analytics to provide something meaningful to employers or partners?
Membership data is interesting because you have to look at the confidentiality of that, what information we will be sharing. I think that we share a decent amount of secure, so non-personal information through recruiting to attract and retain the employers that we have had. So there's always an opportunity to use that to get more granular about who's coming into NSBE and what are opportunities. So if in the previous webinar, it presented that majority of our membership are electrical and mechanical engineers. So what happens when employers want more industrial engineers? I'm biased. What if they want more IEs like me? So how do we, stay abreast of who are those people? When are they graduating? Keeping that relationship more reactive than proactive. So it's always an opportunity to allow the data to drive decision making and getting more either recruitment or just partnerships.
All right, next question. Oh, wait, so not a question. Not a question, but Udacity, Coursera, and Udemy?
EDX,
Coursera.
yeah, they have a lot of free courses for data analytics, data science. Most of them are super free, and you'll have to pay, I think, for one level or one course certification is $99. And then to get a micro masters in some of them, it's 500 to maybe 1500, depending on the program that you're interested in.
All right, so another comment. Creating a data quality / analytics roadmap would be a great project for the NLC. However, it requires a bit of work prior to NLC occurring.
Yep, I can't contest that. So if y'all want to do it, let me know. I'm here for it.
All right, so I think we have another question here. Yep. Thanks for the presentation. Can you speak about the data quality management system resources that might be needed to implement an enterprise / production level solution versus what might be adequate for the scope of work within an individual contributor project?
Wow. From an enterprise standpoint, you have to look at data quality from I don't want to say from the enterprise again, but data quality management on a wide scale is really dependent on what system that you're utilizing. Again, Informatica, ISO 25012, those are really good resources to tell you what tools, because you literally would need data quality roles. So a data quality specialist, a master data quality manager. You would need a data governance specialist. You would need literal data quality specific roles to carry it out from an ERP standpoint, from a system-wide standpoint. To implement it within a project, it's literally using that same approach within the existing system that you have. So if that person or persons, if you want to talk more about it, email me. But yeah, to really carry it out through a system, you got to have those people and personnel with that specific training to carry that out, because it really changes how you view data within your entire system.
All right, we have another question, I believe, or maybe this is a comment. I participated in the visualization in our seminar at PDC last year. If there's an opportunity to do something like that again with data quality, that would be beneficial to the membership, just to gain greater understanding and learn ways to implement these methods.
Duly noted. Thank you so much. I definitely before the COVID stuff, unfortunately, we had a couple workshops that was geared towards using data to make visualizations and how to drive change with data visualizations from a continuous improvement lens. So if you guys were registered, I had a workshop called Leveraging Analytics that was dedicated to using not necessarily R, but how to make your data come to life from that lens. So my hope is to continue that same or keep that same energy for nationals, to have another workshop that is focused on using data and making it come to life. I also want to do a small pub for myself. If you are interested in learning more about data quality, specifically in Industry 4.0, I just had my first article published, which is Data Quality Management within Industry 4.0. It is in ASQ Software Quality Professionals Journal, and it is a research study that I did majority of all last year that focused on the aspects of data quality and how to loop that in with Industry 4.0 principles, so like Lean Six Sigma, supply chain management from that vantage point. So if you are interested, let me know, and I can share that paper with you as well.
So that was the last question there. So I believe you can wrap this call up.
Can I ask just a quick question, Maurice? I don't know if am I off of mute?
Yep, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Cool. Yeah, Diamond, again, great presentation. And I think I just heard you mention that your article was published with ASQ. Is that the American Society of Quality?
Yes.
Oh, great, great, great. So many, many moons ago, I was a member of that because of the line of work that I'm in. Are there any opportunities for us to collaborate with them? I mean, when I remember my tenure with working with them, there was a lot of trainings, opportunities, you know, innovative sessions. Like, is that an opportunity for this SIG to maybe partner more with them and really sort of, you know, point our members to there for more training, more development, and vice versa?
Yes, that me and you, we can have a off conversation about it, but there were opportunities for us to partner with IISC, which is the Institute for Industrial and Systems Engineers. So my hope is to kind of bring or rejuvenate that effort to have a NSBE and IISC partnership. They also have Lean Six Sigma trainings. And what I really liked about IISC is that they were carrying out Lean trainings and Lean initiatives to collegiate students. So you could graduate with a green belt, plus or minus, either yellow or green belt. So my hope is to rejuvenate that energy and get more partnerships. Been working with Tableau to get training and a partnership. So different organizations like that are really heavy hitters in the industry, or they have a proven system that works from an organizational standpoint, I absolutely want to partner with them.
Thanks, Diamond.
No problem.
And I'll hold you to that. Let's definitely talk about it, especially at our meeting that we'll have in a couple of weeks. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I cannot wait. So, is there any more questions?
No, there is not any more questions currently.
Okay, cool. Well, if nothing else, first of all, I really appreciate you guys taking this time out to just learn a little bit or a snapshot about data quality. And I appreciate your dedication, not to me, but to NSBE. It's really humbling, especially in these times, to have people hop on the call just to learn more and possibly just redirect energies from what's going on with COVID-19. So I truly appreciate that.
Maurice, before you wrap, can I just give a quick plug for one of the other SIGs that have something this Saturday? Would you mind so terribly?
Absolutely, go ahead.
Awesome, thank you so much. So Tiffany Jones had a conversation with me. She's a member of the Public Policy SIG, Special Interest Group. And the National Urban League Young Professionals and NSBE, they're both going to be working together this Saturday for the National Day of Service. And I've been asked to participate in a session as they discuss what that day is about, which is really about, you know, programming and service, and their interest with NSBE is really working together on a lot of STEM program. From what I understand, this program is something that's always held, and it's usually in a physical location, but of course now due to COVID-19, things are all virtual. So this will be their first try doing it. I believe our public policy has pointed us to look at the National Urban League Young Professionals' Facebook site for Saturday to actually see some snippets of the virtual event. So please take a look at that. So just want to say thanks to Tiffany Jones, as well as Rosalina Bray and the entire public policy SIG for extending their relationships with great organizations like the Urban League. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you all for joining this call tonight.
All right, good night.
All right, good night, everyone.